So the session 3 has 3 papers. One from Anna and Charles. So because Charles is here, we will have Charles to present the concept. And Lublin has another paper. So Powell and Tomasz about the interregional production network between European Union and Asia. And then we have a presentation by Dr. Young-Wook Jang to be made by Dr. Jo Dong-hee, because Dr. Jang has another appointment, so he's not available. And we have then Dr. Jo to present on his behalf. So why don't we start? Yeah, Power. You are muted. I cannot hear you.
Okay, okay, sorry. Just one correction, because I think the paper of Charles and Anna was presented and was moved to the first session.
Right, that's right. Yeah. To the second session, yes.
To the second session, yes. So we have only 2 presentations, so we have plenty of time.
That's right.
Actually, or we can just start earlier our next
That's
session.
Right, yes. Yeah, you are right. So
yes.
we have now...
Actually, it's our turn.
Powell and Tomasz, and
yes.
then to be followed by Dr. Jo. Okay, please,
yes.
Lublin.
Okay. So I will share the screen again. Yeah, as it was mentioned by Sebastian, we are dealing with production networks in that chapter. So the main goal is is to assess the scale of production links between the European Union and countries of Asia. Actually, we are talking about Asia, but unfortunately, we don't have too much data for all the countries of Asia. So the assessment of the scale of production links between both parties and impact on these links of production networks on trade, on product specialization, and also on comparative advantage. So these are main goals, and then the structure. Yeah, first introduction, where we put our rationale for the chapter. And in the first part, we'll concentrate on the theoretical side of the concept of this value chains, global value chains, and international fragmentation productions. It is always needed to explain the methods and the data sources. Yeah, and of course the literature review. So it will be the first part. I will be back to that soon. I show you some slides, but the presentation is not that long. And then we'll have the part which is analytical part. So we'll, based on the data that are available, we'll try to show the shape of the trading value add between the European Union and Asia. So we'll talk about the geographical structure of the trade, also about the structure, I mean the product structure of this value add trade. And then based on that, we'll also show how the specialization has changed or is changing in global value add chains. And we withdraw some conclusion on that. So this is kind of a like preliminary structure, and more or less, I think we'll realize that plan. For the moment, after the initial research, we formulated 4 hypotheses that will be checked. Yeah, the first one is that the degree of this production integration of European Union with Asia is much lower than internal production links in the EU and also in the Asia. So yes, this is the first part of this hypothesis, and at the same time we can falsify or confirm the hypothesis that this production integration between EU and Asia is higher than production links between EU and North or South America, as well as between Asia and North and South America. As for Europe, I think it's correct. We'll check if it's also valid for Asia links, but this is a hypothesis we would like to just to check. The second hypothesis is connected to the economic situation of the world economy, actually, and as in the first journal article, we also mentioned about that the year 2008 was like important data for the change in the international production network. So it also meant for decreasing of these connections between EU and Asia. The third one is that the fragmentation of production had and has significant impact on the value and structure of EU's trade with Asian countries. And also it has important consequences for trade balances. If we take into account the gross or the value of exports and imports calculated on the gross value or gross base, and then we take into account the value add flows, the trade balances are quite different. So it also can have such implications, this fragmentation of production. And the fourth, that production links are influencing also changes in specialization and comparative advantage of EU and Asia. Yeah, and as for the theoretical side, I won't go probably into more details, but we can, based on the literature, we can distinguish between like 3 main concepts of the value chains and international fragmentation of production. So it will be put in the theoretical part with all this I mentioned in the beginning. So it will be developed, and then we'll also for this methodological part, we'll explain how to calculate all these flows. So the basic thing here is to have this ability to assess domestic contribution to the final value of the product. And we have gross exports, that is a sum of domestic, direct and indirect value add, which is exported by one country to another countries, but also it has a foreign value add, which includes also some elements. So on this chart slide, you can see like a division of these elements we have to take into account in our calculations. So yeah, we'll prepare that. And as for analytical part, we'll use the methods and the data that are available. The first thing is that we'll have some data from international input-output tables, and which is well known, the project, the WTO and OECD project. Then we'll also try to determine the share of domestic and foreign value add in exports, and this participation indices in global value chains. We'll use some measures for that are also available. As for the goal connected to comparative advantage or assessing the changes in comparative advantage, we'll use the modified indices of production specialization, and also it will be the BLASA index, but modified in order to get some flows based on value add, not on the gross exports only. And as for assessment, again, the specialization within global value chain, we'll be using two measures that are also available. Forward linkages that measure the share of intermediates exports in the first importer to the first importer, and then are re-exports to third countries in gross exports. And the second measure is backward participation. So it's a share of foreign value adds in final and intermediate exports in gross exports. So yes, this is so-called vertical specialization. Okay, sorry, I haven't shown you that slide because I have two screens and I was looking at the other one. Sorry for that. So I described first 4 points, I guess. Yeah, but final fifth, you can see that it only touches the period that is covered by the analysis, and it is limited to those years presented here, 2005 and 2015, but it is because of availability of data. So the data on production networks or trade in value adds are published in delay somehow, and this is OECD database, which is the most, in our opinion, the most appropriate for measuring connections between the EU and Asia, or actually in the database are, our research will be showing the structure, the product structure of the trade. So it will also cover, as Sebastian mentioned, the semiconductors also. So we can somehow harmonize our papers in that. Yeah, so this is the one thing. And also we'll be showing the structures between the most important countries. So bilateral ties between, for example, Germany, which is the powerhouse of those linkages, and also some selected Asian countries. Namely, it will cover China, also South Korea and Japan. So yeah, this is the basic concept of that. Yeah, and we hope to verify this hypothesis, yeah, and to achieve our goals. Yeah, so that's all for the moment. And yes, of course, we'll be happy to hear your your comments, suggestions, and questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Zhou, for Dr. Zhang's paper.
Okay. Okay, so let me first apologize for Dr. Zhang's absence. So he thought 10 a.m. in Korea time. So
Our mistake.
so
Organizer's mistake, yes.
Okay. But
We
it
did
was,
not write in Korean time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a simple misunderstanding. So he planned to take a day off today, long time ago, but then he realized that he needed to present, but he thought, oh, I could make it 10 a.m. I could do it at home in the morning, then I will leave for Seoul, but only to realize that it was Germany time. So he wanted to share his apologies, and but he prepared his slides and abstracts and everything. So let me present what he plans to do in this project. Okay, so his topic is infrastructure and connectivity, similarity and difference between the AIIB and the EIB. We all know that it requires a huge amount of investment in physical infrastructure for connectivity, like physical connectivity, of course, and these days, more importantly, digital connectivity, virtual connectivity, they all require a huge amount of investment in infrastructure. And we have, for that purposes, certain institutions to finance those huge infrastructure investment, and they are often multilateral, such as the AIIB in case of Asia and the EIB in case of Europe. And to briefly introduce you about the AIIB, it was established in 2016 as a financing arm of China's Belt and Road Initiative. And what they invest in is our green infrastructure, connectivity and regional cooperation, innovative technology, and private capital mobilization. So they have connectivity explicitly mentioned in where they invest. And for the EIB, it was established much earlier. And they also have infrastructure investment projects, and particularly reflecting the policy directions of these days. They emphasize cleaner transportation, digital networks, energy efficiency, and sustainable urban development. And they must have similarities and differences. So for similarity, they both focus on sustainable and resilient infrastructure to connect Asia for the case of the AIIB and Europe for the case of the EIB to the world. And because of the situation with the COVID-19 pandemic, and also for the interest of policy world, they have particular interest in climate change and post-pandemic recovery. But they have differences, such as in the level of transparency, accountability, and inclusion. So which can be a potential threat to Asia-Europe cooperation. So what Dr. Zhang plans to do in this project is to explore the similarities and differences between the aims, between the AIB and the EIB in terms of the aims, key projects, organizations, funding, and governance. And his aim for doing so is to seek the possibility of cooperation between these two institutions, which are very representative and symbolic of infrastructure investment in the two regions. And let me also show you his table of contents. So what he plans to do more concretely is to overview the aim, organization, and the funding of the two institutions. And he also wants to review key projects of the respective institutions. And then he plans to make comparisons between the two institutions. And based on all these observations and reviews, he wants to find some contributions for the cooperation between these two institutions. So yeah, this is what I can deliver to you about Dr. Zhang's project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Zhou. So two papers are presented now, the key concepts of these two papers. So why don't you start discussions? Sebastian?
Yeah, thank you for both presentations. And I was, when I listened, when I read the abstract by Tomasz and Pavel, I thought of the old question, how to define Asia, because I mean, who are the actors that you bring in here? That is something that you, I think that is important to know. Is that, for instance, yeah, well, I mean, who do you have in mind? And that is somehow also linked to an additional point, that is, you say that one issue that will be examined is the geographical structure of the trade in value added between the EU and Asia. What do you mean by geographical structure? Wouldn't it be also interesting to look at the institutional structure? So which frameworks, regulatory frameworks have been applied between the governments in those two regions, and which impact do they have? So what about the institutional impact here? And then you would also the relevance. I mean, where's the link to connectivity? Of course, implicitly, this is all connectivity, but I mean, that is an issue to all of us. If everything is connectivity, nothing is connectivity. So we have to be, we need to define what we mean. I think in your case, it's quite straightforward. You speak of production networks, right? So that would be the point of entrance here. But you also speak of interregional production networks. So again, what constitutes a region, right? Which actors are in here, and do you define this geographically or territorially or differently, in a different way? And what I've already mentioned, you said that because of the availability of data sets. It's your research period are those 10 years between 2005 and 2015. Yes. Maybe you could also then at least make a reference to the COVID, to the impact of the pandemic. Maybe there is some room here, but I understand that this is definitely not your research interest, or let's say your research interest is circumscribed and defined by the availability of data. Yeah, and the second presentation, that is by DJ Joe on behalf of Dr. Zhang. You speak of interregional connectivity. So, what constitutes those regions, right? Who belongs to them? And Asia, Europe, well, but I think, yeah, that would be good, because the membership of those institutions that you refer to, especially the AIB, I mean, this is not merely Asian. On the contrary, the Europeans are in there as well. Yeah, thank you.
May I respond?
Yeah, Paweł.
First, thank you, Sebastian, for your comments, questions, and yes, suggestions. Well, the general answer for almost all your questions is the availability of data. So in production networks, we can use three main databases, and the database of OECD WTO is the most recent one. So this is yeah, general limitations, but it is known for or to all scientists, working in the field. These data are published, with a huge delay. So these are the most recent ones. As for what is Asia, yes, this is a question. And again, in our first article in the journal, we are talking about Asia, which consisted of 50 countries altogether, but it was trade where the data are much better and much more detailed and available. Here, of course, we would like to cover with our analysis the more countries, Asian countries, but the truth is that in the database we have only 13 countries. And in those 13 countries, not all of them are very much involved in the trade. I mentioned about 3 countries we would like to analyze more. And this is our analysis of geographical structure. So it will be, how to say, it will be analyzed which countries are more involved and which are less involved. And in that sense, we'll make some assessment of that geographical structure of the trade. On the other hand, on the other side of those links, there is a European Union, which has some data as an entire group. And this also leads to your suggestion to take into account the other institutional groups, but it is not possible in that sense because there are no data on those countries. Of course, we could describe some agreements, some institutional framework, but it wouldn't be very easy, probably, if possible, to show the impact of those agreements on production network development. Of course, we can think about how to comment on that, and we'll probably do. But this analysis, it will be in our expectations, this economic analysis of what is possible based on the data available. And maybe additional point on that, because we have this production networks development that is made mainly by transnational corporations. These are not institutional agreements that allow us to develop it. These are decisions of enterprises, actually. So if they want to perform such operations in different locations, they do. So this is kind of argument on not concentrating very much on institutional agreements between those two parties. Another point you raised also was where is connectivity? Yeah, I think that the response or answer is quite straightforward. So this is kind of this economic area where we can find the trade, also capital flows and production connections. So I think it's like a case study for economic connectivity here. And as for, again, maybe I should add also in that geographical structure, also in Europe, we have countries that are much more involved in those production networks than the others. So I mentioned about Germany, maybe I should also mention some Central European countries that are quite important actors here. So in that sense, we can also develop our analysis of geographical structure of the trade. And I think the last point was about the COVID. And of course, we'll make some comments on that, because of course the COVID had the consequences, but they are not known already, because at the beginning of the COVID, we've been talking about some disruptions or moving enterprises from China to another countries, but it's not happening actually, because it requires a lot of resources. It requires a lot of skills. And for example, China has like 100,000 skilled workers, and these workers are working in those factories. And the United States, and I think for the most developed countries, they don't have altogether, they don't have such a number of skilled workers. So it's not that easy. But of course, for the moment, the production networks were stopped, but now they are still working. And in general, I think that the firms are not thinking about how to say revolutionize the networks. Of course, they want to diversify the sources of imports and so on, but it is not the movement that were forecasted before. Yes, so of course COVID is important, and we'll probably make some comments on that, but the main body of chapter will be based on the economic data that are available. I think I answered almost each of your doubt, but of course, yes, thank you very much. And yeah, the discussion, what is Asia, is the very interesting question. But in this economic side, we are very much confined or limited by the data, and we have this consciousness that there is some weaknesses, but we'll try to justify our position somehow.
Power. is 2005 the oldest data?
Excuse me?
2005 is the year for the oldest data?
2005.
Yeah,
the beginning.
is the
Yes.
beginning of the data set.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering how you can make a robust study or research on the changes between 2005 to 2008 and 2009 to 2015. If the data time series is so short, then probably the prior to 2008 changes in this period may not be so representative to make the 2008 a breaking point. So there is my some concern, small concern.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, it is a problem because according to this data, we have only 3 years, right, up to 2008. But because this is the one database we thought we would use, there would be no problem with data comparability. There are, of course, some databases that have data even since 1990, but they are much weaker and probably there won't be too much detailed information. So it's not that complete we would expect from the database.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's of course good point, and yeah, maybe somehow we'll.
Yeah, Dr. Zhou, do you cannot answer the question.
Yeah. So what I can do is just to tell Dr. Zhang to spend some good amount of time on the definition and constitution, composition, extent of each region, Europe and Asia, and also to include it someplace in the paper.
Yeah, probably what we can do to accommodate very valuable comment of Sebastian is to write it in the introduction, right?
What we mean by Asia?
Asia, Europe, and so on. Right. But each chapter can have kind of flexible concept of the region, right? Because it depends on the subject we are dealing with in each chapter. So that in that chapter, then each is also can briefly mention about how the authors are thinking about conceptualizing the regions, right? So in the introduction, we have to mention that I think Sebastian wanted to make this point also, right?
I'm very sure Dr. Zhang never thought that the definition of each region is debatable. So your comment is really valuable.
Yeah.
If I may add also, because we've checked the possibility of data for semiconductors in that database. It's not that easy. Probably
it's not easy.
Not because it is about more computers and those kind of goods that are traded. Semiconductors is very specific area, so we would have to dig more in other databases. So as Sebastian mentioned, we have somehow harmonized our papers. We would be in touch on that, and then maybe we can solve the problem of the semiconductors somehow.
Yeah. Why I mentioned this is probably semiconductor is really very crucial part and component for digital connectivity. That is true. But semiconductor in industrial policy perspective is more used now for instance, protectionism, right? for instance, the chips or semiconductor diplomacy, like the vaccine diplomacy. We have a shortage of semiconductors used for car production and so on. So that's probably not in the context of the digital connectivity, but it's more problem of the global supply chains, not value chains, but global supply chains. So, but so there is my idea is to minimize the amount of semiconductor in the digital connectivity section. But digital connectivity may have more other dimensions, right? So that is my comment. Yeah, this is really very pity that we cannot give more time for each paper, right? Because of this very limited time, we can find in common. We can have only 4-hour workshop like this. So it is really not so productive. World has become smaller, but this is has become unproductive as well. So probably we have to do some small chat as well, right? Because we will have workshop in November, but in the meantime, to compensate for the not use the time, we have to elaborate more on each other's papers, right? And make more extensive comments when the papers are more developed. So let us discuss that in our management section, project management section. If you have no objection, then without break, we can proceed with our project management discussion for about 20 to 30 minutes. And then we can complete and finish our meeting today. Okay? Do you agree?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Fine.
okay.
Yep.
Good. For the management of the project, we have to first mention about the special issue thing. Special issue, so the first batch of our papers should be published in a special issue of a journal. I was informed that Yerlei Hui is not anymore editor-in-chief. She handed over this position to another Chinese academic. I could not contact him yet, but I would like to do soon. But at the moment, I'm missing 3 papers. So those who have not yet submitted, please submit as soon as possible so that I can make some concept paper to submit the proposal to the special issue editors. So there is a kind of a reminder for completing the paper as soon as possible. More importantly, how we can proceed with this paper, with this monograph project. We have just exchanged our basic ideas. And what we plan to do is to present and discuss more extensively in a Singapore workshop, which is planned for November this year. In which form and how we can convene the Singapore meeting, because Yerlei Hui is not here, we cannot discuss it out. However, Dr. Yoon and me will discuss it with her through emails. And we will provide helping hands so that we can have a successful workshop like this one. But is it all we can plan that we have had just exchange of basic ideas, and then 6 months later we submit the draft? That is one option, but option 2 is in the meantime, sometime in August or September, we have 1 or 2 hour meeting. And before that, we exchange expanded proposal, right? Expanded concept paper. And then we can make more extensive and more constructive comments. That probably is more productive than to have workshop in 6 months again. What do you think?
As for me, we can declare that it's in our opinion it's better to meet in the meantime.
In the meantime, yes.
Yes. So we'll have
checking, providing more constructive comments before the paper is almost done, right?
Exactly. So it's much easier to change in that phase of the production, let's say, of the paper than later. Yeah,
so without probably without organizational lengthy preparation, we can just call on after agreeing upon the dates, right? So then we can do that so what date do you prefer? Would it be okay end of August or September to write a kind of expanded concept paper?
As for me, it would be better mid of September.
Mid of September.
Yeah, as for me, but I can, change my plans and we can meet.
If you don't mind, Sebastian, I speak for both of us. For us at group, it will be also better mid-September, because usually August here it's a bit empty.
So you have new semester beginning in October, right?
Yes.
What about Dr. Zhou?
Unmute yourself.
I cannot really commit for the second half of this year yet. So we don't really know very surely about our schedule yet. But if you agree on something, then we can try to accommodate.
Okay, you can see whether you can do, because
sure.
KIEP is demanded very frequently by the government, so they cannot plan the time. However, if President Kim says you have to do it, then
But usually late November is busiest time of the year for us, because we need to finish up all the projects.
Yeah. We know that.
But we will try to accommodate to what you agree on.
Thank you. So Charles, is it okay for Uppsala too, mid-September?
Yes, I would like September over August. So.
Yeah. Okay. Then mid-September, which date, which week date? Monday like this, or? That we communicate later? Well,
Monday,
mid-September.
Mid-September 13th, Monday 13th, for instance.
Monday 13th. Yeah, excellent. Monday 13th. So let's do preliminarily decide on September 13th, the same time, and have 2 hours or so, or 3 hours. Oh my God. Because the papers are expanded, we have more amount of comments. Maybe 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 hours. Yeah. So 10 to 13, 5 to 8. 10 to 13, 5 to 8. There is the summertime.
Yeah.
And winter time. Yeah.
As well.
Okay, we will check it, and September 13th, so preliminarily our meeting, interim meeting for preparing the draft paper. And then November dates for our workshop, I have to discuss it with the Yerlai, right? And then 2 or 3 alternatives we will decide with Yerlai, and then ask your preferences, okay? As we did in this time, we'd like to do a similar procedure for the next workshop.
I mean, just to mention it, does anybody think that it's reasonable to even take into consideration that we might meet in presence in Singapore?
November. November.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not vaccinated yet. I mean, so, but I'm nevertheless, I want to be a bit optimistic, but probably it's just not.
Yeah, if it's possible, why not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because we have money. Money is not used, so we have to use money. That so if situation allows us, why don't we meet in Singapore? So we will probably discuss that in September too, right?
Yeah.
So we observe the development of situation.
Yes.
And we finally decide in September after discussing in more detail.
Yeah.
Right? We can do that. Yeah. Meeting, discussing over beer is what we need now. Compensation.
With 2 fingers crossed.
Yes. Okay.
By the way, are you vaccinated? Who's vaccinated here? Just, I mean, curiosity.
In Poland, it's already vaccinated.
Yeah, Lublin is clean.
Yes, actually in 2 weeks, because we've been vaccinated like on Thursday.
Okay, so
by the second dose.
So in 2 weeks, you will know, you will have this certificate. Or the vaccine passport.
We've already have a certificate of that, but yeah, in 2 weeks will be, let's say, the efficiency of the vaccination will be the highest. But of course.
So nobody else?
I got my appointment today, June 2nd.
June 2nd. Congratulations.
Yeah.
We are now I can now register, but my wife and me discuss not to do it, delay it to the last moment. Okay. I don't know why, but I am kind of afraid of it. I have lots of concerns.
Actually, depends on what kind of vaccine will be the choice, the AstraZeneca or
for me, AstraZeneca for us. Yeah. So if it were Pfizer, I would have already registered.
You know, you know what is good thing for AstraZeneca?
No, I don't know.
And you survive for a few more days, and everybody says, "Wow, you're still alive." So it's kind of you are facing a bigger kind of challenge, and if you survive it, then
yeah.
So, Dr. Yoon, do we have anything else to discuss?
Yes,
Actually,
of course. We will touch upon the two things, and the last one is about research fellow. We have
Research fellow. Yes, that is important.
And currently, so far, 6 are done, and then 14 left. And then Korea one is working on it, and the Poland is suggesting they're going to have around 4, right?
4. That's good.
But altogether,
two confirmed, right?
Two confirmed.
Yes, yeah, 2 confirmed, and we've been talking to another 2 persons. So one is a master student, very good student of mine, and the other is completing her PhD. So probably as soon as she completes that, she'll try to prepare that. So I think after vacations, it should be somehow done. I hope so.
That's good.
So altogether 4.
If possible, if it is possible, so we're going to have those junior research fellows have a chance to make a presentation again this in November, if possible. So
it's a good idea. Yes.
So far, if it's okay, then the Poland is going to have 4 slots, and then Sweden already did 1, but 3 left. And Germany already did 3. Submitted 3 papers, and currently 1 is working on it, and the last one is going to submit his whole paper at the end of this August or anyway this summer, right? That's what I heard from you.
Yes.
Okay.
So that potentially it could be presented in September. November. In November?
Okay, November. Okay. So
we have a total number of research fellowship to be given. It's 20, right? So divided by 5 is 4. But we have to think it collectively. If one university cannot use up, then other universities can help out, right?
Yes, and as we need to look at it again.
Yeah.
And we will do so. Yeah.
Please, if you have more, then please use.
Yeah. Sure.
And I'm not sure. So Singapore, Dr. Lee Wei is going to have their students submit papers, 4 papers. So,
because she is not a faculty member there, it is probably not so easy for her to get the students, right? So
then we better split it to other partners. So
yes,
except for Singapore, every partners have to submit 5 papers, not 4 papers.
Yeah, we do our best efforts. Charles, do you know about the Uppsala?
No, I didn't have a chance to talk with Anna about that, so we'll need to touch bases about that and fill you in. So
yeah, can you mention it when you meet her?
I will definitely.
Dr. Yoon will write again to all the coordinators of each university. Okay.
Great. I'll take that up with her.
Yeah. And another thing we have, or
it's almost done.
Almost done.
Yes.
So colleagues in Europe, it's time for you to take lunch, or did you already do? So it's for us to have a late dinner, or no, because it's now about 9 o'clock. 8:40.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you all for attending this workshop and contributing your basic ideas about the paper and giving comments and answering all the questions raised. So I'm also thank you very much for accepting my offer to meet in the meantime again before we have November workshop in Singapore. About Singapore, whether we can meet in person, we will seriously think about that, right? We will observe the situation as development and let us discuss it again in September. By that time, we hope we have some more data to make decision on it.
Excellent, good.
And also, Paul and Thomas, thank you very much for your excellent preparation for all the documents and 2 papers you committed. Thank you very much. And Sebastian also, 2 papers. Thanks. And,
nice seeing everyone. Thank you today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Also, Dr. Zhou, despite your busy schedule, thank you for your attendance. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Sung-Hoon, for
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks all. Take good care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care. Bye. And see you in September. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you soon. Well.